50 years after Israel's victory in the Six-Day War, the peace process with the Palestinians remains stalled. My guest here in Tel Aviv is Yair Lapid. He's head of the centrist Yesh Atid party and viewed by many as a possible prime minister. Would he get the negotiations restarted, or is it just more of the same? Yair Lapid, welcome to Conflict Zone.
Thank you.
You believe in your right to live in a country with a Jewish majority.
Yes.
Which you have. You also believe in equality, which you don't have in Israel. How are you going to bring that about?
Well, I don't think we don't have equality in this country.
Family unification, for instance?
I think Israel is a Jewish state. I think part of being a Jewish state and a Jewish democracy is making sure the minorities will have their rights. Just recently, I think it was a few years back, for example, an Arabic Supreme Court justice have sent the prime minister to jail. This doesn't happen in countries with no equality.
But have an Arab who's living, say, in the West Bank or Gaza, and he wants to bring his family with him. Well, most of the petitions will get turned down by the court.
Well, first of all, if somebody's talking about Gaza, we are not in Gaza. Let me remind you.
But you control everything that goes in or out.
No, we're not.
You do.
We did. First of all, they have a border with the Egyptians. But let me.
One.
And one border with us. We have done in Gaza whatever the world has ever asked us to do. We left. We dismantled the settlements.
You
the
went
army
from standing
left.
inside to standing outside the gate.
Let me finish. And you know what? We even left them with 3,000 greenhouses for them to build an economy for themselves. And instead of doing so, they have built training camps for the Islamic Jihad and fired until this moment more than 15,000 rockets on our children.
And you've blockaded them since 2007,
yes,
and you don't even let cement
we are
in.
Protecting ourselves.
And you stop jam going in.
Are we not allowed to protect the life of our children? Is this something only the other side has the right to?
Let's go back to family unification, because that is,
by the way, it wasn't
is a key difference.
It wasn't a rhetorical question. Are we allowed to protect the life of our children?
Is this what family unification is about? You think by letting in spouses of people who are already Arab Israelis and people in the occupied territories?
We are not the aggressor in Gaza. We left Gaza.
I'm not talking about Gaza. I'm talking about family unification.
They could have built an economy and a country, a life for themselves.
I know you don't want to talk about family unification, do you? Because it's a big issue. It's discriminatory, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's protecting the life of our people. What is happening is people are using, or misusing, should I say, all the rights that are being given in order to promote terror. So if you're allowing them to do all sorts of movements in Gaza, each and every time they've misused it. I'll give you a better example than family unification. I'll give you a better example than family unification. We have let them so many times to take out the sick and elderly in ambulances, and then we found all kind of explosives in these ambulances because they're misusing every opportunity they are being getting.
Here's the difference on family unification. We have this from your state's attorney's office, that to achieve family unification is a special benevolent act of the Israeli authorities. If somebody in one of your settlements wants to bring a Jewish relative, that is a right. These people have to rely, the others, non-Jews have to rely on a special benevolent act of the Israeli authority. That is not equality, Mr. Lapid, is it?
And they could have had all the rights in the world if they haven't used them to promote terror. The problem is, I'm more than willing to give them all the humanitarian rights they deserve if they only promise one thing, not to misuse them in order to shoot and kill our people. And they don't. So blaming the democracy on what the terror organizations are doing is insane.
Mr. Lapid, the fact is that Arabs for decades have suffered one kind of discrimination or another here in Israel, haven't you?
Oh, isn't that so?
Since you like facts so much, let's look at some. After the first Intifada in 1987, a judge-led commission, the Orr Commission, determined that the State of Israel did not do enough or try hard enough to create equality for its Arab citizens, or to uproot discriminatory or unjust phenomena. That's a government set up commission.
It's an interesting quote, because you say that Israel hasn't done enough to promote the rights of Arabs in this country.
They're saying it in the commission.
But still, we are the only country in the Middle East that did anything to promote the rights, the democratic rights of the Arab citizens, because in the Arab countries, they have no rights
but you,
whatsoever.
You, who are so concerned with equality, were prepared to tolerate what this commission called serious distress prevailing in the Arab sector in various areas. The distress included poverty, unemployment, a shortage of land, serious problems in the education system, and substantially defective infrastructure.
So what you're saying, that the country that is forming a committee, trying to figure out what is the right thing to do, will be blamed for doing so, while those who do nothing will never be blamed by you. You will sit there in all those Arab countries and you will say nothing.
You hold yourself to a different standard. That's the difference.
How does
that's the difference.
By the way, how does billion Arabs feel when you tell them you just told them right now that you hold them for a lower standard? Is this fair? You just told a billion Muslims that you hold them for lower standards than you hold us. I don't think they will approve with that.
It doesn't matter what questions I ask them, and I ask them the same tough questions that I'm
don't
asking
think so.
you. Oh, you've never seen any of the interviews.
You know, you keep telling that. No, you do the double standard is done by the European media, not by us.
Don't smear me with the
No,
European
you did a
media.
good
That's
job
a smear.
about me.
You have no idea of the kinds of interviews I do with Arab politicians, do you? Have you seen any of them?
By the way, you seem to be
I don't
pretty
have to
offended with
justify
some.
myself.
Well, neither do I.
So,
neither do I, neither do my country. We are doing our best under terrible circumstances where people keep firing rockets at us. We have the bus terror, we have people who are knifing our children in the streets. And then when you form a committee trying to improve the lives of the Arab citizens of Israel, you tell us, you see, the committee said that there is inequality. Yes, this is why we're trying to improve it.
And I go back to the question that I asked you at the beginning. What are you trying to do to mitigate this inequality? Look, the latest human rights report from your biggest ally, the United States, State Department, delivered 5 months ago, criticized institutional and societal discrimination in Israel against Arab citizens of Israel, in particular in access to equal education, housing, and employment opportunities. So nothing has changed since the All-Commission report, has it?
Yes. The thing is, we're doing something about it. When I was Minister of Finance, I formed the first committee which said, well, let's improve the life of our Arab citizens. We gathered a plan, a 5-year plan. We put a lot of money into it. We took steps. This is what you do in a democracy. You're asking me if Israel is perfect. There's no perfect nation on earth. You're asking me if we're trying as hard as we can. Maybe we can try harder, but we do try, unlike others. But when you talk about reports about Israel, let me give you an example. You tell me what you think about it. In the last decade, there were 61 resolutions of the Human Rights Council, the United Nations Human Rights Council, about the entire world.
You bring this up in every interview. Look,
yes,
can we just stay with the question?
Angry.
Can we just stay with the question?
Yeah, I am staying with the question.
No,
the question is, who is being treated in an unfair way, Israel or the others? And the answer, Israel is the one who's being treated in an unfair way.
I know,
by you and your life.
You've said this many times. Asking questions is unfair.
Well,
asking tough questions is unfair.
Well, I've just asked you a tough question, and you said it's unfair and it's a smear. No, it wasn't a smear. It was a tough question.
The deal. No, you told me that the Western media was biased. That's not a tough.
Well,
that's not a question. That was a statement.
Well,
in
most
my
of the things you said are statements.
Well, and I'm asking
when
you what you're going to do about it.
When you're calling Israel a discriminatory country, it's a smear to me because we are not.
Well, your government commission called it, and also the U.S. State Department. So I'm just quoting them. In an interview in February in the Jerusalem Post, you said that Palestinians just go round lying, cheating, and inciting, and drafting the radical left movements in Europe and the U.S. to support them. But they don't have a monopoly on incitement in this part of the world, do they? Some of your politicians have done their fair share of inciting, haven't they?
Well, you should bring them over and ask them about this. I do not do incitement. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I don't think this is responsible politics. But if there's somebody you have a claim to, you should ask him.
So there's a lot of incitement here from all sides then.
Well, I don't think there is any Israeli politician who ever said that the Arabs have no right to live. And there are so many Arab politicians around the globe and around the Middle East that has talked about the total destruction of Israel as their aim and goal. There is a difference. Yes, people are saying irresponsible things in Israel as well. This happens in a free and open society.
But it's actually worse than that, because your president in 2014, Reuven Rivlin, said he despaired of the hate speech in Israel on the internet. And he said of politicians and prominent rabbis condoning anti-Arab violence and rhetoric.
Yeah, so
I'm not asking, he said, if we've forgotten how to be Jewish. I'm asking if we've forgotten how to be human.
I am so happy that not only that we have a president who is capable of giving such a speech, but also that we live in a society in which choose a person like this to become his president. I voted for him, of course, in Knesset, because I think he's got a moral voice. In open societies, you have all kinds of voices. This
what
is
about
part
his
of
criticism?
democracy. Well, I think criticism is part of living in a free society.
But this
and it's a good
particular
thing.
criticism.
Yes, and I think there are many people in this country who said racist things. What, you want me to defend now every Israeli? I'm out there. I'm fighting racism in this country. I'm fighting prejudice in this country. I did things for the Arab citizens of this country, and I will fight for their right, for the equal rights whenever I can.
And you want separation. This is your policy.
Yes.
Separation, to bring about the Jewish majority that you want in Israel. Your policy is to separate from the Palestinians.
Under the two-state solution.
What if in the end large numbers don't want to separate? What then?
On the Palestinian side?
Yeah, because the latest Palestinian polls show that support for a two-state solution is still below 50%. What if large numbers don't want to separate? What are you going to do? Forcible removal?
No, anyway, you're asking if we will do anything that is unilateral? I don't think so. I don't think it's the right move. I think
you don't think so, or you're definitely not going to do it?
No, we're not going to do anything unilateral. We tried that in the disengagement, as I said before, and it didn't work out that well.
Because a large number of Israelis would like to see forcible removal. There was a Pew survey done in March last year. Nearly half of Jewish Israelis would be happy to see forcible removal of Arabs from the country.
Well, that's
pretty shocking evidence of hostility, isn't it?
Well, there is an hostility.
This is deep and abiding hostility.
People are scared. People feel that we tried everything. Let me remind you, in the years 2000, in the year 2008, in the year 2014, Israel, former Israel, 2014, it's the government I was sitting in, agreed to start a separation of under the two-state solution in a formula that was more than 90%, in which more than 90% of the territories will be moved to the Palestinians to build a Palestinian state, and the Palestinians refused. So they like standing in demonstrations shouting "Free Palestine," and whenever they have a chance to be freed, they refuse.
They've engaged in one peace process after another with you. This idea that there's no partner for peace for Israel, this simply isn't backed up by the facts.
Well, I never said that. What I'm saying is, you may not like the partner, but you have to work with what it is. I wish we had, I think Yitzhak Rabin said that before me, I wish we had the conflict with the Swedes, then we can solve it in a much easier fashion. We have a dispute with the Palestinians, and we have to separate from the Palestinians and build the highest wall possible between the two people.
And you will negotiate a separation with them.
Yeah, but I will negotiate it not the way they negotiated it before.
But you've already made your conditions clear. I mean, you laid this down. You keep the major settlement blocks. That's your unilateral decision. You said,
as it was said in the Bush-Sharon letter.
You said in January last year, if I was prime minister tomorrow, that's a deal I would make, building in the blocks in Ma'ale Adumim, Ariel, Gush Etzion, in exchange for a freeze outside the blocks.
True.
But do you think the world is going to buy this?
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because
all the settlements are still seen as illegal and an obstacle to peace in the outside world. All of them, whether they're in the bloc or outside the bloc.
There are two theories. One that is considering the entire settlements or the entire territories is the one thing, and one that's saying there's a difference. Things have happened. This is the Bush-Sharon letter from 2001, saying there is a difference between the big blocs and between what is happening outside the big blocs. What is happening outside the big blocs is probably the future state of Palestine. Inside the big blocs is Israel isn't going to stay Israel, and let's not pretend it's the same.
And on the basis of your views, you told a conference in January 2016 that you could change opinion about Israel abroad. You said in the past 6 months, I've spent a considerable amount of time campaigning for Israel's image abroad. I'm telling you, it can be changed, it can be improved, we can make people and countries change their minds. And then came Resolution 2334, calling your settlements, in December last year, calling your settlements a flagrant violation of international law. America abstained, much to your horror, and so the resolution went through with not a single vote against. So much for changing minds.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's a big surprise. It will come as a big surprise to anyone to say that the UN is biased against Israel. And
what about all the 14 other countries who voted for this?
And by the way, and if you ask the United States today, if you ask Nikki Haley in the UN or the American president, abstaining and not vetoing 2334 was a mistake. Now,
but there were 14 other countries,
yes,
Mr. Lapid, who voted. Are they all biased against
no, they
Israel,
are buying into
Russia, China, UK, New Zealand, Malaysia, France?
Let me remind you, behind the Palestinians is the entire oil money in the world promoting their issue for 50 years now, and saying that the Jewish state is all wrong, and forgetting conveniently that the Jewish state has offered the Palestinians more than 90% of the territories from themselves.
You're getting off the subject.
No, I'm not getting off the subject. This is the subject.
My subject is that you're not changing minds if you get 14 countries, including those like Russia, China, UK, New Zealand, Malaysia, France, Spain. They're not changing their minds.
This is exactly what I'm saying. Why I'm saying
your settlement should
should go. This is exactly why in September 2015 I already put a plan saying let's go to a regional conference, let's talk with the more moderate or more conservative Arab Sunni states about the Palestinian issue, let's start a process. Doing nothing is also a choice, and it is usually a bad one. So doing nothing for me is not an option. What we have to be more proactive. I said that before, I'm saying this here again. We have to be more proactive. This is part of changing the world.
You think it's just a communications
way of looking at
problem?
No,
I think the world attitude may change if you change your policies here.
Sir, now you're not listening. I just said we have to go into a regional conference. This is doing. This is not media. This is not talking about it. This is doing something.
But you're not going to change your views on the settlements, are you? The big settlement blocks.
No, I am not. This is part of Israel.
And that's part of what the rest of the world is not going to
maybe so.
Forget. Look at the resolution.
People has been telling us since the day Israel was formed, you know what, even in the 2,000 years beforehand, that if we'll be only nice enough to the people around us, everything will be fine. And then terrible things have happened. I'm telling you, Israel will protect its interests no matter what. And we're not asking permission from anybody whether or not to stay in our homeland. What I'm saying is we are willing to start a process in order to compromise and have a two-state solution. But we're not going to do anything that will harm Israel's security.
Including leaving those major settlement blocks, despite the fact they are a major barrier to Israel's relations with the rest of the world.
Well,
a major barrier.
If there'll be a process and if there will be progress, it won't be a major barrier. And you can repeat this as a cuckoo clock, but I'm telling you, there won't be any problem if we'll be in a process. Because you know what, even in the Arab world, they know now that there's no way of going back to 1967 or to 1948. Things have changed, and this is part of Israel, and it's going to stay part of Israel.
You have said that you've implied that you are something new in Israeli politics. You told Politico in March, I think Israelis understand that we need something new and clean and different. True. Strongly suggesting that you are that something. A lot of your critics don't think you're new at all. Former Prime Minister Ehud Barak says you're no different from all the other politicians. Lapid, he said, would represent more of the same, taking votes from the center-left, but allying himself with the right. He's right, isn't he?
No,
because
he's wrong.
You share a lot of views of the right wing, don't you?
I share a lot of views. I share all views that are practical and pragmatic.
Like on BDS, for instance,
like
boycott,
BDS.
divestment,
yes.
sanctions movement.
I think I have maybe started or was one of the first ones to go out there and fight BDS in the world, because I think BDS is a Hamas finance, a terror finance.
What's the evidence
movement.
for that?
Well, you know what? I will send you the Wall Street Journal research on that proved that behind the BDS movement stands Hamas money. It was very good research. You should read it.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, so it's somebody else's research, but you can't tell
No,
me. You can't give me a piece of evidence.
No, we have.
You can't give me a piece of evidence.
No, we do. We have all the evidence in the world. But if I thought to myself, you know, being the journalist you are, you don't want the evidence coming from the Israeli government, of the Israeli establishment. I will give you the evidence of somebody.
So take it from a right-wing American
Does
newspaper.
this has to do with right or left, or does this has to do with facts? So now even the Wall Street Journal is not biased enough.
You describe the leaders of the BDS movement as outright anti-Semites linked to the Palestinian mufti who collaborated with the Nazis.
Yes.
You know all these BDS leaders personally, do you?
Oh, come on. No,
Come on, I mean, this,
yes.
you paint with a broad brush, don't you?
No, I don't paint with a broad brush.
This is slogan headline stuff.
These are people who are calling the Israelis killers, while the majority of killing, of course, is happening, not the majority, the mass majority of killing is, of course, happening within the Arab world.
Including Jewish
Israel.
Voices for Peace in the US?
Yeah, well,
them
you know,
too?
as I was saying, if you read on to the quote, I was talking about the fact that this is based on Hamas money, this is based on terror money, and of course they use the regular and usual, what they call, how they call it, idiots that you can use, it's the Lenin...
Useful idiots.
Useful idiots.
So you're calling Jewish Voices for Peace in the US useful idiots?
I'm calling everybody who's quoting the BDS movement either biased or don't know what he's talking about.
Like the director of this movement, Rebecca Vilkomerson, who said, I wanted to take concrete action to bring about freedom and full rights for Palestinians, so I embraced the boycott. I believe that Israel won't change its policies until outside pressure becomes impossible to ignore. BDS is a powerful way to encourage
she's talking. I don't know this lady, but let's talk about this freedom, because I see them in
Don't
every
you see
demonstration.
This is a genuine feeling on her part?
Yes, because people now are all about feeling, and nobody's talking about facts.
And you say she's an outright anti-Semite. She's Jewish, for heaven's sake.
And what I'm saying is, now people are the only thing they can talk about is their feelings. They see a picture in a newspaper or on a website, and now their feeling is that probably the Palestinians are right. No, they're wrong. What I'm telling you is, we have here people who are standing and shouting, free Palestine. Free the people who hang gay people from telephone poles. Free the people who think it's okay to beat your wife. Free the people who think it's okay to burn churches and to kill Jews and Christians just because they're Jews and Christians. These are the kind of people they want to free. This is the kind of people they want to support. This is the BDS movement.
That's your view. They think they're trying to change policies and get equality for the Palestinians who live under Israeli rule.
So you know what?
And didn't want to for the last 50 years.
You're saying this is my view. So this is the way, you know what? So do your job. This is the way I look at this. This is the way they look at this. Why don't you go out there and see what the facts are?
The danger is, though, that Israel becomes immune to criticism, doesn't it? B'Tselem, your own human rights organization, described as extremist by the government.
They are extremists.
Human Rights Watch, who you refused to allow into the country in February until there was a public outcry. And what did they get wrong? What did they get wrong?
The thing...
Can't you take criticism anymore?
No, we do take criticism. If you read the
but
Israeli papers...
But you filter it and restrict it now.
No, we don't. You know what? Listen, the fight against terror is not happening only with people with guns. It is also happening on social networks. It's also happening in free media. It happens by people who use democracy shamelessly in order to attack democracy.
And you want to be like North Korea?
No, I don't want to be. Anybody. Come on, you are staying here in Israel. You know we are nothing like North Korea. We have here a press that is freer than the majority of countries in the world. So you can take every allegation and take it to the extreme and ask me to protect myself from the idea that Israel is like North Korea. Is England like North Korea? Is the United States like North Korea? No. And Israel is not like North Korea. And then you're telling me I'm
vetting people. I'm asking you a question. And vetting people on the basis of views they might have about your country.
You're vetting people. The only way to vet people. I have no problem with people saying whatever they are. Hubert Humphrey said once that the freedom of speech doesn't give you the right to be taken seriously. So I think the problem, these organizations that you just quoted, the biggest problem within the Israeli society is nobody's taking them seriously because unlike you, we know them. We know their motives, we know what they are about.
All of them?
Well,
every single one.
You know, these are very small, fractional organizations that are usually very part of the Israeli radical left, and they're trying to promote a view that is not very popular within the Israeli society. And as I was saying, the only people who support them are journalists who come from abroad and don't know much about it.
Yair Lapid, good to have you on Conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.